You are Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That game was drunk, it was out of control, and we're going to somehow find a way to talk about it. Welcome into a live Locked On Pistons Postcast. I am your host, Jake Rietma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. Pistons somehow get the win, 125-124 in overtime. If you saw the overtime period and you didn't throw your phone through the TV after that fourth quarter like I wanted to, it was something. Tim Hardaway Jr. comes to life and knocks down 3 threes to save the Pistons. We'll break down that brutal fourth quarter. It was so difficult to watch. We'll talk all about it and that wild overtime session and wrap it up with our studs and duds. So come along. It is a wild Locked On Pistons postcast. Let's discuss it. But before we do, don't forget, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. That's right. We're introducing the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. It's your one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage, and it's delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter, and it won't make you throw your phone through the TV like I wanted to during the fourth quarter of that game. Don't forget, today's Locked On Pistons postcast is also made possible by Robinhood. That's right, Robinhood Gold, the new standard. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. And here we go. I think we got to start with the bag. And as always, your comments are welcome. That's the beauty of the live Pistons postcast. And before we go any further, make sure you check out Locked On Pistons on the daily with Koo. Appreciate all the work that he does. But the Locked On Pistons postcast, Pistons postcast from here on forward, the post-game show, it is your destination to be, and it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and it's free and available wherever you get your podcast. And the beauty of the live shows, you can get your comments in, use that live chat function. It's the same as everything on Locked On Sports Detroit. We cover the Lions. We had Locked On Lions postcast, not so fun yesterday. And of course, the rest of the Detroit teams, Locked On Tigers postcast when baseball comes around, and Locked On Michigan Wolverines football postcast. But tonight, I had everything done. I had my notes taken. I had everything prepared to talk about that beautiful third quarter surge, the way the Pistons outplayed the Miami Heat, the way JB Bickerstaff outcoached Eric Spoelstra for the Miami Heat, the way Cade Cunningham distributed, the way Malik Beasley dominated and found the bottom of the net time and time again, looked like a shooter. And you throw it out, you throw it all away, you crinkle it up because the Miami Heat decided to go on an 18-2 run to force overtime. And the Miami Heat decided to go on that run just as much as the Detroit Pistons fostered that run and allowed for it to happen. It was deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say, because it was so difficult to watch. It was like the same thing as the last time the Heat mounted this huge comeback and then the game goes to overtime and the Pistons somehow win in overtime. I don't know. You can't make it up, but I think we got to get into how bad the stretch of that final fourth quarter, or the final stretch of that fourth quarter, was and where the breakdowns were defensively. And then combined offensively, the team just they kept going too quickly. It was like they didn't realize that the Pistons didn't realize that they had this huge lead that was just slipping away, and they played right into the hands of the Miami Heat. And anytime you're up 112-96 and somehow, some way, I believe, let me make sure I have that exact score down because I wrote it down to make sure I had it. I mean, you look about where this Miami Heat team was able to, I mean, Pistons led 112-96 in a 15-0 run. Just egregious. And worse than that, I think, was the final stretch and the final play where you have Tyler Hero. You're up 3. You have, I just do not understand why it's not automatic. And of course, I'm saying this after the Miami Heat hit the 3 from Tyler Hero, but every bone in my basketball mind is telling you up 3, foul. I'm screaming at the TV, foul. The percentage of making a three-pointer compared to a free throw missing and then getting the offensive rebound and the tip back, it's uncomparable. And I just pull my eyes out watching the final stretch, and you could feel it happen. You could feel the energy in the building. You knew Tyler Hero was going to make a three-pointer, and he did. And when you go into overtime after that, is kind of what you expected. A slow start from the Pistons. Miami scores the first couple of points of overtime and even had a lead in that overtime session before somehow, some way, the ghost of Tim Hardaway Jr. wakes up with 3 3-pointers to save the Detroit Pistons in this game, because they were dead the rights. And I just heard JB Bickerstaff say it post-game, they were dead in overtime. And that's what today's NBA is. You can somehow save a game with a couple of 3-pointers made and a shooter getting hot. And I hate to oversimplify it, because there was a lot more in that game than what got to that point. But my goodness, what a wild turn of events, up and down, a roller coaster ride, culminating with the Detroit Pistons winning. And honestly, this might be some of my personality, and so I apologize for the way that I am. But watching that game and the way the breakdowns continue to occur down the stretch, and you go from a cruise control victory to that, I was just so irate. And I'm obviously glad that they found a way to win the game and they showed some resiliency there, but it just never should have gotten to that point. And the way Jimmy Butler and willed his team back, and Tyler Hero too, they deserve a lot of credit. But my goodness, Jimmy Butler, 35 points in this one, 12 of 21 shooting. He even had that bucket in overtime without a shoe on, which is just, I mean, you saw everything tonight. It was pandemonium on the hardwood at Little Caesars Arena. But for the Pistons, man, I mentioned Cade Cunningham was distributing, and how about that, to the tune of 18 assists. That was clearly the Miami Heat game plan, and talking with a couple of buddies during the game, it was just so clear. Spoelstra said, all right, everybody make Cade make the pass, and I think Cade could have had 25 assists tonight if it weren't for some missed threes, especially down the stretch when the Heat were on that 15-0 run to close out regulation. I mean, they outscored the Pistons 33-17 in that fourth quarter to force overtime. Just egregious all the way. But Malik Beasley was hot early, finished with 28 points to lead the Pistons, was hot from beyond the arc, 7 of 13, but kind of went away in that fourth quarter. And again, this is a sign of a team that's growing, and you're going to have lapses like this, but they can't last as long as that lapse did in the fourth quarter and allow a team to hang around. And again, it was just like a bad dream, a nightmare you couldn't stop from happening down the stretch when the Pistons allowed Miami to score, 6. It might even been a 16-0 run. Math is hard for me, but I believe it was a 14, whatever it was, 112 to 96. So no, a 16-0 run. Just again, egregious keeps coming to mind. But in overtime, I should focus more on that, because Tim Hardaway Jr. saves the Detroit Pistons with the 3 threes he had in overtime. 5 of 10 from the long line for the game with 16 points. And, he said in his post-game interview, he missed some wide open shots. There was that egregious turnover as well, which I can't believe I haven't even brought that up yet. The turnover and I'm actually going to back Tim Hardaway Jr. on this, because when he went to throw it to Malik Beasley, the Pistons have the lead at that point. Miami is going to foul. You're trying to take as much clock as you can. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is, with that inbounds pass, is leading Beasley away from the defense. But Beasley broke off his cut like he didn't know the rules that you could go into the backcourt in the final 2 minutes on an inbound pass. He was like cutting the floor, Beasley that is, cutting the floor in half and minimizing the amount of space that he could use, because he didn't know he could go. And I'm insinuating that he didn't know he could go into the backcourt, because otherwise he would have, because Tim Hardaway Jr. his pass led him into the backcourt, and that would have allowed for more time to come off the clock. So I don't blame Tim Hardaway Jr. at all. You know, they weren't on the same page, but man, my goodness, another mistake that you thought, okay, this is surely how this game is going to end. The comeback in overtime was nice, but Heat have the ball down just one, final seconds of the overtime session. They get the ball to Jimmy Butler, misses the first shot, wills his own offensive rebound, then gets fouled. And then the shot that they got for the final possession of overtime was really a desperation heave from Tyler Hero. Now, I was fully expecting him to make it, if I'm being honest, but it does not find the bottom of the net, and the Pistons hold on. But just weird, crazy, chaotic game all the way around. So we'll take your comments and continue to break this one down, go through that overtime session and what the Pistons need to do to avoid lapses like that. That's all coming up next on a Locked On Pistons postcast. This episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the same rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. This episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Hey, it's December. The holidays are here. Happy holidays, by the way. And that can bring a lot of emotions. Let BetterHelp help you during this time. Now, listen, therapy can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For me, it helped me a great deal in the loss of both my mother and my father. And there's a lot of different ways to go through therapy. One great thing about BetterHelp is it's completely online. So if you're thinking of therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Listen, again, therapy means a lot of different things, and this time of year can bring about a lot of different emotions. There's no doubt about that, and therapy is a great way to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the season changes. So find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We always take your comments here on a live Locked On Pistons postcast. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And again, if your TVs are still intact, I applaud you, because I threw my phone at the TV when Tyler Hero tied the game. Okay, not literally, but my goodness, I thought I was going to end up on one of those viral videos. I was so mad watching that game crumble before our eyes. But that is life in the NBA, I guess. All is well that ends well. And the Detroit Pistons somehow find a way to get the dub, 125-124, thanks to Tim Hardaway Jr.'s 3 threes in the overtime session. But this is the Pistons postcast, your postgame destination where you can air your grievances, you can commemorate with one another, collaborate, commiserate, whatever it may be. This is your destination for that. So let's get to the comments, because it's always a joy to hear what everybody has to say. And we begin with Demetrius McNeil. dodged a bullet, didn't they? They sure did. Dodged a bullet is one way to put it. I might also say, somehow, some way they had the favor of the basketball gods, because you give up the final 16 points of the fourth quarter and you're not going to win a lot of games. And again, it felt like a cruise control win. I had everything in my notes. I had every description written. I had every graphic made. You think the Pistons are just going to cruise to victory, but not so fast, my friend. And, two ways you can look at it. I'm going to try to look at the latter, but the former is this is you never should have been there. You never should have been in this position. You never should have had to go to overtime. This showed a little bit of the lack of killer instinct and a lot of red flags and areas to be concerned of. Now, the other side of the coin that we could discuss and choose to look at it this way is, even when S hit the fan, if you will. It's a family program. That's why I say S. But even when you were at your worst, things got chaotic and the bottom fell out, you still found a way to win. And that's what some of the toughness, some of the resiliency that JB Bickerstaff is bringing to this organization was on display. And some of it, too, might be as simple as saying, hey, thank God that Tim Hardaway Jr. got hot in that overtime session. But I thought after the Heat made that initial run in the second quarter, where they came back after the Pistons had that strong start, I thought, okay, we're in for a good game. But the way the Pistons started with that surge in the third quarter, the Heat just were not ready to go coming out of the locker room. And I think some of that is on Spoelstra and the way that, in as bad as this team looked from time to time, and as bad as their game plan was, quite frankly, trying to defend the Pistons and essentially letting Cade, the dribble penetration dish that to open shooters, that's like recreational stuff. That's what we do when we're playing Sunday morning hoops and you drive, and if your other guy helps, you dish it out and hope that guy knocks down a triple. There was nothing complicated at all about what the Pistons were doing. But again, they were able to surge in that third quarter, build a lead, and then gag it all the way, choke it all the way. My goodness. But we're going to continue breaking this one down. We've got some studs and duds to go over, as well as some final thoughts on the final segment of the Locked On Pistons postcast. One of my studs might actually surprise you, and that's what is coming up next. So don't go anywhere. The Locked On Pistons postcast is right back. We'll be right back. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. It's America's #1 sports book. You know that. I know that. And it's time to tackle the NFL action with America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, and it's all on the same page where you place your bet. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, and never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, studs and duds portion of the program. And as always, we got a number of people tuning in to the Pistons postcast. If you've got some comments you want to add, feel free to add. Who are your studs? Who are your duds? And we will discuss. Love having the collaborative component of this program on full display. Now, my first stud's got to go to Cade Cunningham, and I know he didn't lead the world in scoring, but he finishes with 20 points, 18 assists, and 11 rebounds. So messed around and got another triple-double. And the way Cade was distributing the ball when the Pistons outscored the Miami Heat 34-22 in that third quarter, showed how he needs to be in control of this offense. And I'm a Cade defender. You saw what happened in the fourth when he took a little bit, was on the bench for a little bit. Miami continued to make that run. And was he perfect? No, absolutely not. There were some turnovers mixed in there, costly turnover late in the game, but 4 of them to be exact. But when the Pistons are at their best, it's going to be with Cade Cunningham leading the way in whatever facet of the game that might look like. And tonight it was distributing the ball to 18 assists. Also want to add Malik Beasley to that, 28 points to lead the Pistons, 7 of 13 from three-point land. And it wasn't just he was a shooter getting open. It felt like he was assertive and on a mission, even early in the game. He opened with the first couple of buckets for the Pistons, and he was off and running, which you love to see. When Jaden Ivey's out of the lineup like he was tonight, you got to count on somebody else to pick up that scoring. And tonight it was Malik Beasley to do exactly that. And with Jaden Ivey being out tonight, obviously the Pistons being shorthanded, it was an opportunity for some guys to step up. And I would have liked to see a little bit more. And it's tough to, call a guy a dud the way, and that's part of the program. And sorry, one more stud on that front with Tim Hardaway Jr., just because he saved this game, and he wasn't good for majority of the game, but he was good when the Pistons were on life support and essentially was the lifeguard pulling the Pistons out of the deep end as they were drowning and letting this game get away with the 3 threes in the overtime session. Overall, though, he was -1 for the game. But Ausar Thompson, -13, and when the Pistons needed him to step up and knock down a big shot, he just was unable to. And I know only 3 3-point attempts, but 1 of 3 from the long line. And it was late in the game. Cade was forced to dish it out to Ausar in the corner. And you just need to be able, as a professional basketball player, you got to be able to step up and hit big shots. Jalen Duren was not good tonight. He finishes -5, just the 9 points, and did have the 16 rebounds, but you would like to see more growth and development and evolution in Jalen Duren's game at this point. I'm not ready to call him a bust. I'm not getting there, but he isn't exactly that guy, especially defensively. The game lacks some creativity offensively, and it just, every time I look at the box score, he's got a big minus next to his name. And whether it be little things that he could do better or the 5 turnovers, just you don't love to see that from Jalen Duren. And 5 turnovers from a big man that shouldn't even be put in a situation to turn over the ball as much as he was. So disappointing night from Jalen Duren, and you're hoping that he can improve for this Detroit Pistons team. He played 32 minutes tonight, and I don't see any time where his minutes are going to go down by any means. But if he continues to play this poorly, I think something's going to have to be done. Maybe he comes off the bench, or he's not playing as many minutes as he was tonight. But I guess the theme for tonight is all is well that ends well, because, man, it was a struggle. It shouldn't have been. The Pistons were cruising in this one, and they let a team back in it. And that's just, it's not the kind of things that you're going to make a winning culture if that's a habit of things that you do. You're not going to continue to survive games like this if you allow the opposition to hang around, and then make a run. It's the NBA. Everybody makes a run. But, man, tonight was tough to see that happen. And, again, Tim Hardaway Jr. resurrects this Pistons team in overtime. Liked what you saw from Cade. Liked what you saw from Malik Beasley. Need to see more from Jalen Duren and Ausar Thompson. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Don't forget to check out the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. That's right, because your favorite podcast now has a newsletter, which what else could you ask for? It's the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage, and it's delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. Appreciate everybody that tunes into the Pistons postcast. We'll be with you following the next Pistons postgame. Don't forget about Locked On Sports Detroit as a whole. Go ahead and like it on YouTube. That helps us out a great deal. And subscribe to the channel, pumping out free content nonstop, all under the Locked On brand. So thanks so much for tuning in. Follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rima. I'll follow back. And it's always a pleasure to talk Pistons hoops, even in a victory like tonight that made you pull your hair out, turned your hair gray, whatever you want to call it. But in the end, the Detroit Pistons win it 125-124 over the Miami Heat. Detroit now 11-16. The Heat fall to 13-11. We'll see you next time on Locked On Sports Detroit.